friends, welcome to the second session of this teleconferencing. As I mentioned, we are covering today the course 1, block 1. As we know, the third unit is government policies and incentives for dairy development. And today we have expert from the Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying and Fisheries, Ministry of Agriculture. We have Dr. Surinder Gupta, who is the Assistant Commissioner in Government of India. He did his BSc Dairy Technology, MSc and PhD Dairy Technology from National Dairy Research Institute, and he has worked there, and now he is working in the ministry. So he has a first-hand information, what are the government plans, what the government is doing, and how it is helping to the people who are involved in the dairy, starting from the farmers to the big businessmen. So I will request Dr. Surinder Gupta to tell you about the government policies, schemes in detail about this. Dr. Surinder Gupta, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saluja. Before I elaborate upon the government policies and the government schemes which are there for enhancement of dairy in the country and which are specifically meant for dairy development in our country, I will just like to tell about the status of dairy in our country. I will be starting with the milk production scenario in our country, and I wish to start the topic with the notion that our country is the largest milk producer in the world, and the production, which was about 17 million tons in 1950-51, just after the independence, it has grown to about 100.9 million ton in 2006-07, and it is expected to be 102 million tons during 2007-08. And the per capita availability of milk, which was 107 grams in 1971, it has also gone up to 245 grams in 2006-07, and it is going to be furthermore with the implementation of Government of India policies and the schemes. If we see the livestock wealth of India, and India is also not only milk producer, largest milk producer, but it is its livestock population that is also huge in number, which is available with us. If we see the total livestock population, it is 485 millions, and the cattle 185.2 million, buffaloes, and we have the 57% of the world buffalo population, and it is about 97.9 million, goats 124.4 million, sheep 61.5 million, and above all these, India is having an advantageous position in the world market because it has both types of milk, cows and buffaloes, and they almost equally contribute to the total production of milk. If we see the salient features of our dairying in our country, this is the novel system of dairying in our country, that 70% of cattle are owned by small and marginal farmers. It is unlike the other major dairy developed cities, countries, where there are large dairy farms, but in our country, the 70% of the cattle are owned by small and marginal farmers, and they supplement the income of these farmers. The supplement, it is taken as a supplementary profession, but with the limitations in agriculture, it is going to be the major contribution to the income of the farmers, and we are finding it that where dairying has been the major earner for the families, it has supported in the time of crisis, like in droughts, in floods. So it is going to be a major income earner for the families, and they will be, in majority, they will be depending upon it. And but the problem in our country is that it is not based on scientific models. It is still low input, low output, although lot of efforts are being done, lot of programs are being run, but still the major animals we are having, they are of low yield variety. This breed improvement programs are going on just to increase the yield of the animals. And these animals, because they are basically fed on these crop residues and byproducts, and so this milk production does not compete with land and water resources, which are chiefly needed for food production. So it is parallelly being adopted by the farmers, and it is a parallel profession along with the agriculture. If we see the dairy scenario in our country, the dairy it is not purely government or purely private. There are three sectors which are existing in our country. These are private, government and cooperative sector. The almost, as my earlier speaker, Dr. Saluja has told, that 20% of milk produced is handled by organized sector, and it is equally shared by private and cooperative sector. That means 10% of the milk produced in our country is handled by cooperatives and about 10% in private sector. But this is that the coexistence of both the sectors is also a novelty if we see the overall scenario in the world. And the rural consumption accounts for about 50% of total production. That means the 50% of the total milk produced is retained by the farmers itself, and the rest 50% is the surplus, which is sold in the market and it is made available to the urban consumers. And if we see the processing capacity during the last few years, we have been able to establish a good processing capacity in our country, so that we are able to give good quality milk products and liquid milk in a very hygienic manner to our urban consumers. And if we will find that about 254 units, these are in cooperative sector, which are handling about 38.49% of the total, which are total units, 38.49%. Similarly, 532 units are in private sector. With the opening of economy, this private sector has just taken over the cooperative sector, and balance about 10.5% units are in government sector, which are about 46 in number. This, with the opening of economy and the potential which has been seen in our country, lot of private players not from our country but the MNCs, they are in dairy business in our country, and they are also coming in liquid milk marketing in a big way. Just to regulate the milk processing, we are having milk and milk products order, so that we are able to supply good quality milk to the consumers. And also to implement this, we have inspection of dairy plants, which is conducted by different agencies notified by Government of India, to see the sanitary and hygienic conditions for processing of milk available in the dairy plants. And if we see the dairy development activities, the dairy development activities started with the Operation Flood in our country. The Operation Flood was the biggest program which had been launched in any of the countries for dairy development. And India was, I'll say it was lucky enough to have this type of program, which gave a major boost to our dairy development, and it became the largest producer of milk. The thrust of Operation Flood was to form three-tier cooperative structure: the primary village milk producer cooperative societies, which the main function of these societies was to make to collect the milk from its members. And then there was a district level cooperative union, which the purpose of that union was to process and market milk within area of operations. And thirdly, just to provide a nationwide marketing, we had state milk marketing federations. And these state milk marketing federations, they are making such a big dent that they have not only explored the marketing in our country, but they had been able to explore the market in overseas. And like Amul, everybody knows about Amul. It had been a very successful model, and we had been, Amul had been a major exporter of milk and milk products from our country. If we see the operation flood details, the pre-project and after operation flood, this operation flood program was implemented by National Dairy Development Board, and these funds for this program were provided by World Bank credit and the commodity assistance in the form of butter, oil and skim milk powder. This was under World Food Program and European Economic Community. So, if we see the type of thrust we got in dairy development with the implementation of Operation Flood, that the areas which were covered, earlier it was only 5 milk shed areas. Milk shed area normally covers one district or maybe 2-3 districts depending upon the size of the district. But after Operation Flood, there were 170 milk shed areas. There were 1600 dairy cooperative societies before Operation Flood. Now, after Operation Flood, these were more than 72,000. Similarly, farmers' families which were involved in dairy development and in dairy activities, they were organized, and about 9 million farmers became organized in this cooperative structure after implementation of Operation Flood. Similarly, basically this Operation Flood not only created organizations in the villages, but they have been able to establish dairy processing capacities. We can see that the pre-project capacity was only 1.68 million tons, which increased to 26.3 million tons. Similarly, if we see the drying capacity, when there was no production of milk powder before the implementation of Operation Flood, but now India is having a milk powder production capacity of 990 million tons per day. That means metric tons per day. And we had been a major exporter of milk powder, and at many of the instances we had been able to regulate the international price of milk powder. And the average milk procurement, which was 65 million kg per day, 0.65 million kgs per day, increased to 10.97 million kgs per day. Similarly, there was an increase in the marketing. So, in a nutshell, if we see the Operation Flood program, the total expenditure was about 18,000 million rupees, and it translated into the increase in the income of farmers, and the annual income of farmers became, which was the impact of this Operation Flood, increased to 37,580 million rupees. And the rural processing capacity, it was about 19.2 million liters per day. And metro marketing capacity, just to give the products which are produced in the rural processing capacity in the marketing network, metro marketing capacity was established, and it was about 7.2 million liters per day. And so, these policies and program, these have been transformation of Indian dairying from stagnation to world leader, and it emerged as the largest rural employment program. And if we see the dairy cooperatives in our country, there is a huge dairy cooperative network. Almost all the states are covered under this dairy cooperatives network, except for few smaller states. And these, at present, it is about 170 milk unions which are having operations in our country, and these are operating in over 346 districts. And they cover more than 1 lakh village level societies. And these members of these societies are more than 12 million, and out of it, about 3.4 million are women. And if we see now the major milk producing states in our country, we have discussed about Operation Flood. Now we will be dealing about the milk producing states. If we see this scenario, there had been a huge increase in the production of milk in almost all the states. And if you find, the Uttar Pradesh is the largest producer of milk in our country, and it gradually increased with the passage of time, and now it is producing more than 18 million tons of milk per year. Similarly comes the Punjab, Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh and Gujarat, Maharashtra and Karnataka. These are some of the major milk producing states in our country. With the increase in the production of milk, we had been able to export our milk and milk products. And with the implementation of milk and milk products order and delicensing of establishment of milk units, we have been able to establish a good processing capacities, which have translated in the export of milk and milk products. Our products are well established and well recognized internationally. Our export was only it was worth for rupees 2.49 crore in 1990-91, and it increased to rupees 395.15 crore during 2006-07. I will also like to tell you that in 2003-04 we were the major importer of milk and milk products, but in 2004-05 we became the net exporter of milk and milk products. It had been only possible with the help of the milk producers, dairy industry in all the three sectors, government, private and cooperatives. And the major products which we have been able to export are skim milk powder, whole milk powder, ghee, butter, cheeses, and there are well established brands from our country and which are well recognized throughout the world. And if we see the dairy development schemes which are being implemented by government, now there are two types of schemes which are being implemented. One is centrally sponsored and other is central sector. Centrally sponsored schemes which are implemented on behalf of Government of India by the state governments. And there are two schemes. One is intensive dairy development program, which is very popular, and it is in a short term called IDDP, and other is strengthening infrastructure for quality and clean milk production. It is a very new scheme, CMP scheme. It is, and if we see the central sector schemes, there are two schemes. One is assistance to cooperative, and other is dairy venture capital fund. These are being implemented by different agencies like assistance to cooperative by NDDB and dairy poultry venture capital fund by NABARD. If we will start with the centrally sponsored schemes, IDDP, it is a 100% government funded scheme. The projects are prepared by unions and these are submitted to state government to central government for consideration. And the basic guidelines of this scheme stipulates that only the less privileged districts which could not get much assistance during Operation Flood are to be covered in this scheme. And because we want that it is not only the certain districts which are dairy developed and which have the potential, but there are many other districts which were left out under Operation Flood can be covered up for taking up this project under this scheme. And now earlier before 2004-05, it was only the districts which did not receive any assistance were taken up for taking up the projects under IDDP, but later on it was added that the districts which received less than 50 lakh as assistance under Operation Flood can also be covered. And to monitor the projects, we are having TMCs, technical monitoring committees which have been constituted, and these see the implementation of the projects. If we look into the details of IDDP, this scheme was launched in 1993-94 on 100% grants in aid basis, and subsequently after revolution and after looking into the impact of the scheme, this scheme was revised in 2004-05, and the main objective of this scheme was in the less developed areas that it will have an impact to increase the milk production by providing technical input services. It will create a procurement, processing and marketing infrastructure in a cost-effective manner. It will ensure remunerative price of milk producers, because these were the areas which were left out under Operation Flood, and these were the less privileged areas and hard areas where the farmers were not able to sell their milk, and many of the times.
Yes, Kanal, please.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Hello.
Yes, please, let's.
Hello. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening, sir. Sir, are you listening my voice?
Yes, please.
Yes. Yes.
Sir, my question is, what is the sir main features of 10th 5-year plan is in Indian milk production?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we are listening. The main features of 10th 5-year plan, these are the schemes which Dr. Gupta is explaining. They are the continuing scheme of the 10th plan. So he will be explaining the schemes only.
Yeah. So, to ensure remunerative price to the milk producers and to generate an additional employment opportunities for the farmers. And this
1 minute. Dr. Gupta, please tell them that these were the
yes.
These were the, actually in 10th plan also, these were the schemes which were continuing. These schemes are the continuing schemes of the 10th plan. There also the focus was on the clean and quality milk production, which he is going to explain, and the first which is on the intensive dairy cattle projects is there. So this is the first scheme which he is explaining for the continuing of the 10th plan. Dr. Gupta.
Yes, I will also like to add that IDDP scheme, it was implemented in 8th plan and it is being continued after 10th plan to 11th plan. Similarly, the CMP scheme, it was introduced in 10th plan. It was a new scheme. Similarly, other schemes, these two were the centrally sponsored schemes, and the other are the two central sector schemes. Like this Dairy Venture Capital Fund, it was introduced in 10th plan, and the assistance to cooperative, it was introduced in 9th plan to give boost to the dairy development in our country. The achievements of IDDP, that we had been able to cover 206 districts, 206 districts throughout the country, and we have been able to organize about more than 24,000 DCS in the areas where there was no Operation Flood, and this with the help of about 15 lakh farmer members, and the daily average milk procurement is about 18 lakh liters per day. Now the second scheme, that is centrally sponsored, strengthening its infrastructure for quality and clean milk production. The basic objective of this scheme were to create infrastructure for the production of quality milk and milk products at farmers level and up to the point of consumption. And this, apart from that, it was to give improvement in the milking procedures at the farmers levels, that how they can produce the quality milk, and similarly the extension and communication to create mass awareness about the quality of milk and milk products, that how important is the hygienic and quality milk production. So far 130 projects have been approved, and about 4 lakh farmers have been imparted training under this scheme. Apart from that, we have been able to establish about 15 lakh liters per day milk chilling capacity. Now, our other two schemes, which are central sector schemes, I will be telling you about that. One is assistance to cooperatives. With the implementation of Operation Flood, there were milk unions were established throughout the country, but some of the unions, due to various reasons, could not be viable, and they started making losses. So just to revitalize all those sick unions, this scheme was started in 1999-2000, and even we were able to cover state dairy federations at the state level. This scheme is on 50-50 sharing basis between Government of India and the concerned state government. That means whatsoever is the cost of the project, 50% will be shared by Government of India and the 50% will be borne by concerned state government. This scheme is being implemented through NDDB. So far, 32 rehabilitation plans have been approved, covering 12 states in the country, and 18 have come into the been able to earn net profit. So the impact of this scheme is very much visible, that with the implementation of this scheme, we have been able to transform some of the loss-making unions into profit-making unions. The other central sector scheme is Dairy Poultry Venture Capital Fund. Earlier in the 10th plan, it was Dairy Poultry Venture Capital Fund, but with the 11th plan, this is going to be only Dairy Venture Capital Fund and separately Poultry Venture Capital Fund. The objectives of this scheme were to promote setting up of small modern dairy farms for production of clean milk, to bring structural changes in the unorganized sector processing and marketing of pasteurized milk at village level, to bring about quality upgradation and upgradation of traditional technology to handle commercial scale of milk handling. This scheme is being implemented by NABARD. The central government assistance flows from this Department of Animal Husbandry Dairying through NABARD to commercial or cooperative banks in the districts. This scheme is implemented by NABARD through various commercial cooperatives or RRBs. They have identified different banks in the districts where this scheme is being implemented. This scheme is based on a concept of revolving fund. The funds are being provided by Government of India to NABARD to keep it in a revolving fund, so that after repayment by the beneficiaries, these funds could be revolved and the benefits could be given to others. If we see, the entrepreneur, the beneficiary can submit the project to a commercial bank or the financial institution which has been identified by NABARD in the district, in that particular district, after which it is scrutinized and appraised, and it is sent to NABARD for approval and release of interest-free loan from the revolving fund. If we see the funding pattern, it is a very novel funding pattern in this scheme. Out of the 100% project cost, 10% of the cost is borne by the entrepreneurs as a margin money, and the 50% of the project cost is interest-free loan from Government of India, and this comes from the revolving fund provided by Government of India to NABARD. And the third, that is the leftover, that is 40% of the project cost, is interest-bearing loan from banks for agriculture activities. Above all, that means we are providing 50% of the total project as interest-free loan. After that also, if the repayment by beneficiary is regular and timely, about this 50% of the interest subsidy is provided by central government. That means whatsoever is the interest burden on the beneficiary, 50% is borne by Government of India, in case that the repayment of loan is regular and timely. If we see the 10th plan outlay for the different schemes which are being implemented by government, for the centrally sponsored schemes, intensive dairy development program, the outlay was 175 crore and the expenditure was about 132 crore. Similarly, for strengthening infrastructure for quality and clean milk production, the outlay was 30 crore and the expenditure was 79.68 crores. Actually, these two schemes have now been merged with these two separate components. Now it is dairy development schemes with these two components. The central sector schemes, assistance to cooperative, about 130 crore was the outlay for 10th plan and about 39 crore was the expenditure. Actually, the low expenditure in this scheme was that it is demand driven. If any union wants to get rehabilitated, they can submit the project through NDDB to Government of India, or if they may have some other options. So that is why it is a very demand driven scheme. So not much expenditure could take place. And under this dairy poultry venture capital fund, out of the outlay of 25 crore, we had been able to spend 28 crore, and this 28 crore has been provided to NABARD for keeping as revolving fund. And if we see the beginning of 11th 5-year plan, that in the first year, the outlay for IDDP was 23 crore and the expenditure had been 34.68 crore. Similarly, for CMP scheme, the outlay was 16 crore and expenditure had been 20.88 crore. So there is a huge demand from the states for dairy development under these two schemes. Under this central sector schemes, assistance to cooperative, about 3.5 crore was the outlay for 2007-8 and the expenditure was 5.05 crore. Similarly, for dairy poultry venture capital fund, it was 45 crore the outlay and expenditure has been about 50 crore. So in all, out of the plan outlay of 87.50 crore, the department has been able to release the funds to the tune of 110.60 crore. And if we see the funds earmarked for these schemes, this for 11th 5-year plan and also for outlay for the 2008-9, the outlay for IDDP and strengthening infrastructure for quality and clean milk production is 225 crore. And as I have already told you that these two schemes have been now merged, so that is why we are indicating the collective outlay for the 11th plan. And the outlay for 2008-9 for these two components, IDDP is 29.99 and strengthening infrastructure is 20 crore. Similarly, for central sector schemes, assistance to cooperatives, it is 50 crore, 11th plan outlay, and 7 crore is the outlay for 2008-9. For dairy venture capital fund, it is 300 crore, and the outlay for 2008-9 is 40 crore. So with this, we can see that government is giving enough impetus to dairy development in our country, and it is not that apart from these 4 schemes, we are having some other schemes also which have been recently launched. As Dr. Saluja has told you about the special assistance, that is for 25,000 crore for the 11th 5-year plan. That is under the scheme Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana. Under that, the state government can submit the projects for agriculture activities, including dairy, fisheries, or any other allied activity for seeking assistance. These projects are submitted through state governments to the department, and then these are being considered for releases of funds. Similarly, NDDB has submitted one more project for a national dairy plan to be implemented throughout the country, particularly in those districts which are having a dairy development potential. That means which can further be developed for dairy development. So these are some of the government schemes which are being implemented. And apart from that, now we are also implementing one order just to regulate the quality of milk being supplied in the cities from the dairies. The objective is to maintain and increase the supply of desired quality of milk in the interest of general public. That means the quality of milk supplied by dairies which are in the rural sector, it should be of good quality, hygienic and safe. So we are implementing this milk and milk products order. And it is to secure sanitary, hygienic conditions, quality and food safety as specified in the 5th schedule of the Essential Commodity Act. There are I am telling you about the dairy plants which had been registered under MMPO, Milk and Milk Products Order. And so in this total number, if you see the central sector under the central government, there are two type of registration. One is state government and other is central government. So total 273 units have been registered under the central government or the central register authority, and with the state registration authorities about 559 units have been registered. And the processing capacity is 708 lakh liters per day for the units which have been registered with central government, and 261 lakh liters per day with the units registered with the state government. We are regularly, apart from that, we are regularly reviewing the milk situation in our country so that we are able to see what the benefits, that the benefits of our milk producers and consumers are not hampered anyway. So this is also being done in the department. We are regularly reviewing the milk situation with different stakeholders like state dairy federations, private enterprises, NDDB, Ministry of Commerce, and take the necessary steps wheresoever our intervention is required. And just to improve the, like last year, just to improve the availability of milk in our country, the ban on export of only milk powder was imposed from 9th February 2007 to 30th September 2007. It was made, this decision was taken just to ensure the availability of liquid milk at reasonable price in the country. So this ban was not expanded because the availability was normal. With this, I want to thank IGNOU for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. You have covered all the government scheme very comprehensively. Maybe one of the questions was there from the Karnal, that what were the schemes under the 10th plan. So my request will be kindly give the salient features of the IIDP and the quality improvement clean milk production schemes. Again, we'll just highlight them for the viewers, please.
These two are the centrally sponsored schemes, this intensive dairy development program and strengthening infrastructure for quality and clean milk production. And this IDDP, this has been specifically formulated just to help the dairy farmers in the districts where there was no investment or very small investment under operation flood. And so under this program, we are providing milk processing and marketing infrastructure, we are providing milk procurement inputs, we are providing the incentives to the dairy cooperative societies, and also we are providing funds for working capital of the societies or the unions. And similarly, under this strengthening infrastructure for quality in milk production, this is being operationalized in all the districts and throughout the country. And this scheme is mainly just to cater the need of the dairy, that we are able to strengthen our particularly chilling capacities in the milk procurement areas, and we just to sensitize our milk producers to produce good quality milk and to create that type of infrastructure. So these two IDDP, this is being continued in 11th plan, in 10th plan and further in 11th plan, and this CMP scheme was introduced in the 10th plan.
Now for this clean milk production scheme, any the dairy farmer can take the loan facility, or is there how he has to go for the scheme? What are the guidelines, or whether the state government can only go, or an individual dairy entrepreneur or dairy farmer can take advantage of this scheme, please?
This scheme was started with the notion that only the milk unions which are having a well-established procurement and marketing infrastructure can take the advantage of this, can submit the projects under this scheme. And it is not open to individual farmers, it is only for the unions or the federations. And secondly, under this we are providing bulk milk chilling facilities and also training to the farmers. We are providing them the critical inputs in the form of detergents, sanitizers, and this scheme has like IDDP where there is 100% grant. In this scheme we are providing 75% grant for setting up of bulk chilling facilities, and 25% has to be contributed by the state or the union which is implementing the projects.
Then what about the MMPO? Now if the MMPO if any small dairy entrepreneur has to go for MMPO, what is the procedure? How, what is the things are there for milk and milk product order?
Actually, this milk and milk products order has to be, this was promulgated when under this Essentials Commodity Act 1955, and this MMPO was introduced, this was passed by Government of India order in 1992. So under this, any dairy which is handling more than 10,000 liters of milk per day and or 500 metric tons of milk products, milk solids per year, it has to get registered. If the handling capacity of dairy is less than 2 lakh liters per day, it has to get registered with the state registration authority. If it is more than 2 lakh liters or it is multi-state, then it has to get registered with the central government. And under this, earlier the concept was of milk shed. That means a union or any dairy will have a milk shed area where no other processing facility can be established. But in 2002, this concept of milk shed area was done away. Now anywhere any dairy can be established, and only it has to get registered and it has to maintain certain hygienic and sanitary condition in its processing establishments. So for that, just to have that whether it is complying with the sanitary and hygienic requirements, Government of India has notified 2 agencies to carry out inspections which is done yearly. One is NPC, National Productivity Council, and other is Export Inspection Agency.
Then what is the features of the venture capital fund, which is through NABARD, you said? How the dairy entrepreneurs can take advantage of this, or what are the, please?
As I had told already, that dairy units have any beneficiary has to take the loan, he has to submit the project, and the project is to be submitted to the bank identified by NABARD in the district. The bank will scrutinize and appraise the project, it will submit to NABARD, and NABARD will, finding it viable, will give the funds to the bank, which will pass it on to beneficiary.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. So you have covered very comprehensively about the dairy development in India, its growth, and also the schemes which are being taken care by the Government of India, central sponsored scheme and central sector scheme. I think the students will have a lot of benefits by listening all the practical information from the man who is running the schemes at the central level. Thank you very much. And I will request the students that we have a next session also on the diploma in dairy technology and where the milk procurement, then how the processing will take place, and we have an expert who is the general manager in dairy milk supply scheme. He is there, he will be giving you a lot of the practical inputs to the course. So please stay in. In our third session, we will be talking about the milk procurement, transportation, storage and its processing from the practical man, Mr. Ashok Bansal, who is the General Manager for the Delhi Milk Supply Scheme. Thank you, please.